So let's get into this, Chaplain.
The first question is, how important is this 2020 election?
Yes, thank you. How important? Yes.
So Rod, did you hit record?
Yes, we're already recording. Yep.
Okay.
So there we go. Thank you for jumping in on that. That's the first question. How important is this 2020 election?
I'll start. This is Calais Campbell. I think every election is very important, and I feel like we're in a time right now where a lot of issues going around in our environment, and there's a lot of different, just the candidates have a lot of different differences of opinions on some of these issues. And, I think that not only is the presidential election important, but also the Senate and all the other elections locally that are going on right now are equally as important, if not more important, because the laws are created, through the House and the Senate. And so, that's something that's very important going forward. You look at the current climate, we lost a Supreme Court justice who was a pioneer for women in just the whole court system, and becoming a Supreme Court justice, this is a unique time because obviously Trump's gonna try to rush and put somebody in office, which anybody would do. But then you had the Senate block Obama years ago for trying to put somebody in a while back, and it's just I feel like right now we're in a crazy climate, but the vote has always been very important. And as a black man in America, I know too many guys who are similar to me that don't vote. A lot of my friends, feel like their vote doesn't really matter. And I always try to encourage them, saying that if singly by ourselves, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't. You're right. But if we all come together, we all vote, and we all have similar perspectives and what we care about, then that vote becomes very strong. So when if it's a lot of one single votes voting, for something they're passionate about, you're really going to make a difference. You're going to be able to put people in office who are going to represent you the way you want to be represented.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you, Calais, for sharing that. I think you hit something very important, which is that there's so many things at stake on the national, state, and local level. Yeah, man, you're right on point. Anybody else? How important is this 2020 election from your perspective?
I'll go. Anthony Levine Sr. And just to piggyback off of what Calais said, I mean, I think every election is important. If you want to make change, we got to start at the top. We got to start with our leaders. We got to start, locally, nationally, because I think we've up to this point, I think we as a race, as a community, just has been taking it for granted, and not really understand the groundwork that our ancestors has put down for the right for us to vote. And I think it was down in was it Selma?
Yes.
So to recap what happened in that, just learning about what happened down there, just to be able to go and vote itself was just was difficult for us, and knowing that, but at the same, so understanding that what our ancestors did to be on the front line for us to even have the right to vote, and for us to make the changes that we want to make, I think this election is very important.
Wow, that's really well said, man. I just want to take a moment and celebrate the players' generation, because your generation is on the forefront of something significant. I think bringing about something, I think an awareness of voting, but also the awareness of racial injustice and the inequities behind it. So I just want to appreciate you for your generation and being able to state, man, yeah, it's every election is important. So thanks for reminding us of that. Let me throw the second question out. From your perspective, what impact could this election have on the landscape of racial justice in America?
This is Bobby Engram. And I think that this election could have a significant impact on the issues of racial justice in America. You know, Rod, you mentioned leadership in the book of Daniel. And I heard TD Jakes said, you know, good leadership is a blessing and bad leadership can be a curse. And that could be in the business, in the corporate world. It could be in the church. It could be as men, as family, men, but certainly the leader of our country and his values and his perspective, his or her, whoever that leader is, you know, that is going to be critical in the direction that we take this country. You know, Calais has mentioned the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice, and the next leader is going to have to appoint at least one Supreme Court Justice. If they have 2 terms in 8 years, highly likely they may have to, you know, appoint 2 or 3 or 4 more. And that's going to be significant in shaping our country. So certainly at the national level, but everybody's mentioned the state, the local, we can't lose sight of that as well. So, you know, we need a strong leader. We need a great leader that's going to have the interest of all of the people. And we think that Supreme Court should have the diversity and reflect the diversity in our country. So we have a right to get out there and have our voices heard by participating and voting in this great democracy.
Man, Coach, you said so much in that, but what I want to capture, what I thought was really important, a leader who's there to lead everyone. Someone else was going to chime in on that question.
Yeah, I was going to say something. This is Johnny Shelton. Yeah, to piggyback off what Coach Bobby said, that there's a scripture that just stood out to me when he was saying that. And the scriptures in Proverbs 31, where it says we have to be a voice for the voiceless. We have to be able to speak up. So we need that leader that's going to speak up for the voiceless. You know, somebody that's going to be not afraid, you know, somebody that's not compromising, that's able to do that thing and speak up. And that's how that will directly impact racial injustice.
I just wanted to add something as well. My name is Andy Bischoff, and I think that we have the opportunity to move our country towards equality in small steps. We all know it's not equal. We see it every day. We live it. We want more. But this election provides us an opportunity. And for me, as a white person, working through this process with my brothers and sisters across the aisle, I know the value of hearing from all of my close friends who need to hear more from white folks, and to participate more with white men and women, and not just, it's not good enough anymore for white people to just simply not be racist. It's more important for white people to acknowledge the faults, acknowledge the weaknesses of all of our history, and voting can help make a change, and voting can bring us together to make a change. And so that's what I have to offer. My name's Andy Bischoff, and voting matters. Make your mark on your vote. Make your mark on this election with your vote.
Wow, Coach Bischoff, that was a whole, you took my sermon, bro. That was a whole sermon right there.
Yes, sir.
No, thank you so much, man. That's huge. We can do that. We can actually connect the races through this vote. That's a great reminder. Thank you. Let me put one more question out there to you, or 2 more. Someday when your children are older, how will you tell them the story of these days we're living in and how you stood for them? What's the story that you're going to tell your children when they're older and can understand these days?
If I could, I'd like to jump in. This is Jordan Richards here. I'd say that this question, I think, really resonates with me. My wife just had 9 months ago, our twin boys. So it's been a whirlwind for me being a father of 2 little men, trying to raise them in our household. But when I was reading this question, I think what came to mind to me, and what I'd like to be able to tell my boys as they get older here, is that their dad wasn't, I think, apathetic in the process. And I wanted to make sure I had the definition of apathetic, but having little or no interest or concern. And that was something that just stuck out to me relative to voting and participation. And I think too often we get wrapped up in, does my vote matter because will what I believe in win or not win? And I think that's missing the point if we're only participating because we're going to win or we're going to get what we'd like or see what we'd want out of it. So, and that's not just this election, that's going forward in terms of something I want to teach my boys in life is that it's about participating and making your mark. And if this is something, if there's something you believe in, that you stand up for it. But it's, the result will handle itself. And obviously there's so much to this upcoming election, and I think incredible opportunity to have a voice and to be a voice and to encourage others to use theirs as well. So that's something I'm certainly excited for, and it continues on down the line in whatever we get to participate in.
Wow. I love your word. Don't be apathetic. Don't be apathetic. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to what do you want to, what's the story you want to tell your children about these days?
If I could just get a second. I think something Calais touched on, which is probably one of the bigger moments with this election here, is the presidential election is big, of course, but the state government, local government elections are probably way more important than the presidential election. I don't think a lot of people realize how many judges President Trump has put in place. Trump has been in office, and most of them are going to have conservative approaches, and most of them are going to have opinions that are closely aligned with his. So if you're not voting on the local levels as well, you stand a chance to probably be more affected or impacted negatively by not voting as you would if you vote. When you go back to the Voter Right Act in 64, 65, when they marched over to Edmund Pettus Bridge, Edmund Pettus was, I don't know if you realize, Edmund Pettus was a senior officer in the Confederate Army. And he was the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan down in Alabama. So you look at him and you look at George Wallace, who was also in the KKK, and you look at, and these are elected officials. And then you look at the sheriff who was down there, Bull, I forget his name, that really opposed all the marching down there. Mm-hmm. These are the people that were voting in office. So these are the votes that are going to impact most of us and most of our children, probably more than the presidential election. So we need to pay attention, especially the players and a lot of the coaches who probably have to mail in their ballots because they're registered in another state. You need to look at the ballot totally from the top to the bottom and see who's running, see what their opinions are. Try to get as much history on that as you can, because if you don't know, you just start checking boxes just to say you voted. You very well could be voting in the next Edmund Pettus or the next George Wallace. So we got to pay attention to those lower level votes, because those will be more impactful to our everyday life, probably more so than the presidential election will.
Man, that's so well said, Darren. The local elections seem to have far longer impact, and I think those who are at the national put in place to sort of carry out the agenda.
The agenda.
And
of
the president, exactly. One of my prayers, and I'll just before we wrap up, one of my prayers is that God would turn America into a nation that is serious about its promises, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. that is a promise that is justice in its orientation. And my concern is that if America does not take that promise seriously, what it could mean for the history of the nation. And so I just want to thank you guys again for being on. I want to thank you for encouraging, challenging people to vote. Darren, you mentioned that voting, I think you mentioned, I'm not sure, I thought you did, voting early is critical, right? Getting those mail-in ballots out is critical because the U.S. Postal Service is having its own set of struggles. So if you can get the voting early, I think we're saying this to everybody who's watching this this conversation, vote early, get out there, mail your votes in, and whatever you do, make sure you research the candidates because we cannot choose blindly because there's far too much at stake. Hey, we have just maybe a minute left. And if there's anyone who hadn't had a chance to share some thought, I'd love for you to have a moment to chime in. I see Coach Joe, there you go.
It's been great listening to everybody. And just to echo what a couple people have said, don't take this for granted. I mean, one, it's a time of need in our nation, like Coach Bischoff said, to really come together as one. And no matter what you stand for, you got to believe in it and feel like you can go do something about it. And Darren and Calais have said, I took things for granted as a younger coach. I didn't vote when I don't think my vote's going to matter, but every vote does matter. And as Jordan said, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And what I can give to them at this time of need and crisis of our country is that, everything that you believe in, you should be able to stand up for and be heard and listened for. So I think it's critical that we're educating, especially our young players, that your vote is going to make a difference. And I think that's what's great about what Darren has brought us all together for to do, and Johnny, in terms of, getting educated on not only the presidential election, but the local election, getting educated and not just checking boxes, like you said, and really doing the research.
Outstanding. Hey, this has been a real blessing for me. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you for making your voices heard. And I'm believing that we can have an impact on this year's election just by having your voices out there in this way. So I want to appreciate you for your time. It says to me, I already knew you were substantive men, but the fact that you are so conscientious on these matters just speaks that much more highly of you. And that's why I root for the Ravens. Yes, that's why I root for the Ravens.
My name is Bobby Engram. Voting matters. Make your mark with your vote.
My name is Andy Bischoff, and voting matters. Make your mark when you vote.
My name is Anthony Levine, and your vote matters.
My name is Joe Cullen. Voting matters, so make your mark with your vote.
My name is Robert Griffin III. Voting matters, and make your mark with your vote.
My name is Calais Campbell, and voting matters. Make your mark with your vote.
Jordan Richards here. Voting matters. Make your mark with your vote.
My name is Johnny Shelton, and voting matters. So go make your mark when you vote.
My name is Darren Sanders. Voting matters. Make a generational mark and go vote.
My name is Bradley Bozeman, and voting matters. Make your mark with your vote.
Outstanding. I think we got everybody in there. My name is Rod Hairston. Voting matters. Make your mark with your vote.